This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network. Visit jabberjawmedia.com for more shows like this one.
Episode number 83 of That One Time on Tour is brought to you by Living Album Art. Living Album Art is a motion graphic art business that specializes in bringing iconic album art to life using various types of animation and overlays. They've been working with independent artists and labels to help create high quality and unique promotional content. Recently, Living Album Art announced that they will be releasing a Thrice tribute compilation containing various covers of songs performed by independent artists who have worked with the company. Volume 1 of the Living Album Art Tribute Index will be released on all streaming platforms February 2nd, 2020. Be sure to follow Living Album Art on Instagram and Facebook at living_album_art. Now here it is, the first track from the Thrice tribute compilation, Fire Breather by the band Havoc Faction.
Roger from No Motive, and you are listening to That One Time on Tour.
Run for the road, 'cause it's going on and on. We'll be driving through the darkest night until the break of dawn. And we'll be heading for the cities, another show for us to play. To get back in the van, 'cause tomorrow we'll do it all again. It's quiet in the van today.
Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. This is Chris Swinney. As always, I am your host for That One Time on Tour. If this is the first time that you are joining me, this is my podcast where I get to sit down with somebody in or around the entertainment industry and have an awesome conversation. Thank you guys so much for checking out last week's episode with Josh Mann from the amazing band Paper Arms. I know Paper Arms is not that big here in the States, but like I said, they're one of my favorite bands, and I had Josh on last week and you guys really liked it. I had so much feedback, so many emails, and I actually had a lot of people very interested in his old band. They're called God So Loved the World, and Josh sent me some of that, and coming up on a future episode, I will be playing some on a radio segment. So once again, thank you for listening last week to Josh and me ramble about all kinds of cool stuff from Australia and everything else. But we're going to have Josh back on the program in the future. He's working on a solo record right now, and he's got some solo dates in Germany. So go check out Paper Arms, and yeah, you're going to love them. They're great. This week on the show, I got to sit down with Mr. Roger Camero from No Motive. He also plays in The Warriors, which those two bands could not be more opposite, but I love both of them. Roger and I spoke about the 20-year anniversary reunion shows they did for their first record, And the Sadness Prevails, out on Vagrant Records. They remixed, remastered, they put it out, and it sounds amazing. And Roger actually was the one that mixed the entire new record, or the new remix of the old record. So we talk about that on the podcast, and just talk about everything else. I really love No Motive. They were a band that really it hit me, man. When I heard that their debut on Vagrant, I couldn't get enough, and I got their next record, Diagram for Healing, and I got Daylight Breaking, and the Lola EP, everything No Motive, I had to have it. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy that. Before I get to my conversation with Roger, I do need to tell you about my amazing sponsors. I do it every week. Permanence Tattoo Gallery over in Anderson, Indiana, Meridian St downtown. My buddy Jacob Harrison, past guest of the show, is the owner. It is an awesome tattoo shop. So if you're in Central Indiana, or if you want to travel to get some amazing ink, head on over there and they'll take care of you. You can check them out on the socials at Permanence Tattoo Gallery. I also want to give a shout out to my buddy Kyle over at Living Album Art. This is the second time that they've sponsored an episode. His band Havoc Faction has actually sponsored 3 or 4 episodes, but this one was for Living Album Art. He does some really, really cool things. He animates, when I had Tucker from Thursday on the show, he animated a Thursday record, I think it was War All the Time, and I used that to help promote the show. But Kyle does some amazing stuff, so you guys need to check them out. It's at living_album_art, and he'll take care of you. Tell him that I sent you, and I'm sure he'll give you the pro rate. So if you want to sponsor an episode, if you have a band or a company or anything, is this you're just a person and you want to sponsor an episode because you want me to talk about, our Patreon producer, Bob Foster, his cat's name is Lars, and he became a producer because he wanted me to give a shout out to Lars Fredrickson from Rancid about his cat, who is named after Lars. So you can do all that kind of cool stuff. Speaking of Patreon, actually, I didn't even say that. If you want to be a sponsor, hit me up. TOTOTpodcast@gmail.com, or on any of the socials at TOTOT Podcast. Now, if you want to become a patron, you head over to patreon.com/TOTOT Podcast, and you can help us out on a financial level. We have 3 tiers over there. $2 a month gets you a shout out. Excuse me. $2 a month gets you a shout out on the program. $5 a month gets you bonus content. and $25 a month, which is what Bob signed up for at Punk Rock Bob Foster. He is our Patreon producer. You get to be a producer of the show and give me really cool ideas and help out with stuff and get shout outs to our guests from your pets. So head on over to patreon.com/TOTOT podcast and get involved. If you guys don't want to help out financially, that is totally fine. This show will always be free. The best thing you can do if you want to help out the show, you enjoy the show, wherever you listen, subscribe, rate, and review. I know on Apple Podcasts, you can do all of that, but then on different places like Stitcher and Spotify, you can follow or you can rate, I think, on most things. But that would help us out a lot because that puts us with other podcasts and helps people find the show. So if you guys want to do that, that would be amazing. I would really appreciate it. Now, we have the holidays coming up. And I've had a few people hit me up and they're like, some people have Amazon wish lists, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to get me anything, but I know there are some people out there that really enjoy the show. And I guess they have money to burn, which I don't have that problem. So if you guys, if you're feeling crazy and you want to send me a gift, some people have asked, I'm not just like throwing this out there because I'm not begging for gifts. But if you want to check it out, most of the stuff on it is super, super expensive. That's not because I think you'll buy it for me. That is a deterrent that you will not buy it for me. But we have a TOTOT Amazon wish list over at our website, TOTOTpodcast.com. You can also get all the listening options, a little bio about me, and you can donate. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So head on over to TOTOTpodcast.com and check it out. Now, news with me, I am pretty excited. I've been writing songs recently, which is a thing that I haven't done for a long time. And I know I've spoken on the podcast before about maybe doing like an EP with some guests. And that's still something that might happen. But right now, I am sort of resurrecting my old band, The Widow Jenkins. Man, I've got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. See, this is real and raw, man. I'm not editing any of this. But I'm trying to reboot the Widow Jenkins, and I think it'll be really cool. I've talked to my old drummer, Jake, who actually was in the Ataris with me, and then Adam, our singer. He's heard a couple of the demos that I've been doing, and there's nothing concrete. We're not going to tour. We're not going to do anything crazy. Just write and record maybe a record. And on an upcoming episode, I might give you guys a taste of one of the songs that I'm working on. But I'm pretty excited about that. If you want to check out what The Widow Jenkins sounds like, we have all of our old demos and all of our old studio tracks on Spotify and Apple Music. Just search for The Widow Jenkins. And if anybody out there knows where we got that name, email me. And if you get it correct, I will send you some sort of prize. And don't Google. If you know it, you know it. It's a pretty obscure place that we got the name The Widow Jenkins. So, yeah, that's what's going on with me, hanging out with my kids, my wife, getting ready for Christmas, and talking to you guys on the old internet. So I wanted to tell you guys, I am doing this thing. It's the top 5 albums of 2019. I have my top 5 ready to go. It was really, really hard to narrow down. I'm not going to read them today. I'm going to probably do it closer to the end of the year. But if you guys want to be featured in our top 5 albums of 2019, make sure to email me, hit me up on the socials, whatever you've got to do. You can even call the hotline. That is 765-372-8818. Let me know where you're from. Let me know your name and let me know your top 5 albums of 2019. And you might be featured on an episode. So without further ado, I'm going to go into a radio segment that I think you guys will really, really enjoy. So, cue the theme music.
Radio, radio, radio. Radio, radio, radio. When I've got the music, I've got the place to go. Radio, radio, radio. Radio, radio, radio. When I've got the music in me, I got a place to go.
On this edition of TOTOT Radio, I'm gonna keep it in the family, man. On this program today, Mr. Roger Camero from No Motive, Most of the conversation kind of revolves around No Motive and their 20-year anniversary of their debut record. But we also talk about his other band, The Warriors. And they have a record coming out this Friday, December 13th. It is entitled Monomyth. And man, it's crazy. I got an advance copy and it's pretty killer, man. And I was talking to Roger the other day and I said, man, I'd really love to play that. And because he didn't think I'd be able to play it. But since the record comes out and it's going to be streaming and physical copies and everything available on Friday, I'm going to play the new single. I think you guys are going to love it. This is Roger's other band, The Warriors, and this is their new single, Death Ritual. Hope you guys dig it.
Spiritual death, death ritual. Physical death, death ritual. I'll scratch, I'll crawl, for the sign of Babylon. I'll buy your high where empires fall. I'll sink, I'll gone, disappear in the midst of Babylon. I'll buy your high where empires fall. I see justice where the cowards cower. Life's a tower's light with burning eyes. Bound by ego dancing lies. Spiritual death, death ritual. Physical death, death ritual. Forced in my head through 7 walls. Yeah, the ritual. Forced in my head through 7 walls. Death ritual. All fish, all fun, all bound to the new gold dawn. Setting up, betting the base. All rights, all wrongs, disappear in the new gold dawn. I see darkness where the cowards cower. Life's a tower's light with burning eyes. No justice, no truth, no lies. Forced in my head through 7 walls. Death ritual. Forced in my head through 7 walls. Death ritual.
So there it was, Death Ritual by The Warriors. Make sure that you guys are following The Warriors on all the socials. Just search for The Warriors, Spotify, Apple Music, everything. I'm sure you guys can get physical copies all over the place. Just Google The Warriors. It's Roger's other band. And like I said, they could not be more different than No Motive, but I love both bands so much. So thank you guys for listening to me ramble. Make sure you're following us and you're subscribing and you're rating and you're reviewing and you're conversing with me on the socials. I love that. The feedback lately has been amazing. We've been charting. The episodes have been blowing up, and we're going to keep kicking it, man. It's going to be great. So without further ado, I am going to jump into my conversation with Mr. Roger Camero from The Warriors and No Motive. Here we go. And I'm on the line with Mr. Roger Camero from No Motive. Is that how you say your last name?
That is correct.
That's a great last name, man.
Thank you.
So how you doing, man? I know you guys you're celebrating the 20-year anniversary of your Vagrant Records debut and The Sadness Prevails. You've been playing some shows for that. How's everything going?
Things are great. We played 2 shows last weekend. We did a little hometown show in Ventura, because that's where the band originated from Oxnard.
Yeah.
Um, and there's not really all that much for actual music venues in Oxnard these days. So we played a place called Discovery in Ventura, and then the following day we played at the old Chain Reaction in Anaheim.
Yeah, I've played Chain many, many times, man. I love that venue.
You know what's crazy about that place? And I'm sure you know, it's been an all ages venue ever since it started, which I believe it used to be called Public Storage back in the day, and then it changed to Chain Reaction. But I think within the last year or so, they started serving beer.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that is crazy. I just remember many nights of waiting to play. Like there is a green room, but it's not that great or anything. So we'd always be out in the parking lot, like talking to kids and stuff. It's just it's a really cool. It's almost like tailgating a football game, you know?
Oh, it is totally. It is 100% tailgating. They did the green room up pretty well. Also, it's everything's pretty nice. I mean, it's still very much Chain Reaction. All the T-shirts are still there.
I get text messages from people all the time, pictures from like Atari shirts that are on the wall.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a trip, dude.
Yeah, I haven't been there since probably like 2009. So yeah, it's been quite a while since I've even seen the place.
The last time you played there, did they because I know they kind of expanded the way the room was set up, so it was partitioned a little differently back in the day, and now it's just kind of a wider open type of room with it's still having that little median kind of breaking the two sides up.
Yeah.
But they actually put in a better sound system. They have a digital board in there now, so it's much more tour friendly.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been there for like a decade, so I kind of remember it being a little bit smaller. Maybe even the video that I've seen from like your recent show and some other stuff, it looks a little bit bigger.
It's a little bigger. It's still probably like you could probably squeeze 300 people in there, and everybody will be, feeling each other's sweat. But yeah, man, it was definitely a great weekend. It was a trip because that was our first time in let's see here, since 2002, playing with the original Vagrant Sadness lineup.
Wow.
Having Pat on drums and me on bass, because we kind of changed things up after 2002. I moved to drums, and Pat ended up joining another band, and so there's kind of like different eras to No Motive. So this was definitely a reunion of sorts.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Like when I hit you up and we got this all set up through Mike and everything, I was like, so what are you actually playing? Because I have an art director that does the artwork for the show, and he always scours the internet to find pictures of the guest. And I was like, make sure you find with him playing what he's actually playing in the band now.
You know what's funny about that is, in the late 90s, there wasn't digital photography and just ridiculous amounts of photographs of live stuff back then as there is now. So I would say if you were to scour the internet to try to find pictures of me playing bass, it would probably be like still pictures from maybe a couple music videos or something like that.
Yeah.
But back then, I don't think we really had all that much going on for live photography with our band or whatever. We weren't that popular, especially being a Vagrant band. So I have some stuff from this past weekend I could hook you up with.
Okay, cool. Well, I remember I only saw you guys live one time. I was trying to remember. I don't remember the year, but I went to Cincinnati, Ohio, to this venue called Bogart's to see Strung Out, and you guys were opening.
Okay, yeah, I remember that tour.
And I had the record because I used to have some friends at Vagrant that sent it to me. and I love the record. I was a huge fan, but for some reason I wasn't aware you guys were opening, and you guys you blew me away that day, man. Like, I love Strung Out. I was going for Strung Out, but I left that show being a bigger fan of No Motive, and I followed you guys all the way up until everything just kind of went away.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that was I don't know if that was our first time playing Bogarts. It might have been. Cincinnati was a cool town for us, for sure. I think we might have played Bogarts maybe at least 3 times. Some pretty wild lineups, I remember. I think we might have did Amex PX out there. I feel like I might be tripping. Maybe we were on tour with Amex PX and there was a day off before our show, and so I think we might have saw Goldfinger with Ignite.
Okay. Goldfinger with Ignite. That's a crazy lineup. Yeah.
If that doesn't sound wild, I don't know what does.
Well, you guys did a lot of touring back in the day. I mean, you guys toured with Jimmy Eat World, Blink 182, MXPX, Face to Face, Alkaline Trio. I mean, was it just a pretty steady touring cycle after the album started dropping, or because I know you guys haven't played for quite a while? What was it like in the thick of it when the debut came out and everything?
We were definitely I would say we were spoiled little brats, because we were still very young when we put out that record. I believe I was just I had just turned 18 maybe when we recorded that, and Max, our guitar player, I think he was still 16 when
that's crazy, man.
When we were touring for that record. So I think the first tour we did for Sadness was opening up for Face to Face when they put out their cover record before they put out Ignorance is Bliss, and then we toured the Ignorance is Bliss tour also. And I think when we did that, it was maybe when Jimmy Eat World was on some of it.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a treat, because that was Jimmy Eat World around Clarity era before they put out Bleed American.
Dude,
so it was cool.
Around that time, I saw them at this big warehouse that was like where they stored fire trucks in Warsaw, Indiana. And there was like 30 people there. It was crazy.
That's intimate, right?
Yeah, well, and it's crazy to think back, because I mean, I did most of my like note taking before I talk to people is from things that I see on the internet. And it said that you guys, toured with Blink. Did you do like a proper tour with Blink? Because they were still pretty big at that point.
We never did a proper tour with them. We did a handful of dates. I know we did a one-off one time in Mammoth with them, probably right before Enema came out, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then later on down the line, that when we did that first show at Blink, it was when, I think it was before we put out our second Vagrant album. And then later on down the line, we did, I think it was 3 shows with Blink and Alkaline Trio.
Wow.
We opened up that bill, and there was a Seattle, San Francisco, and LA show. So not necessarily a tour, but just a handful of dates. And I believe that was when we were supporting our Diagram for Healing album,
which is also another great record, and I can't wait till you guys celebrate the 20 year for that.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, I hope we can get it together for that as well. That would definitely be a lot of fun.
So
absolutely.
In the beginning, I know you guys did a lot of 7 inches on Edge Records. You ended up leaving Edge to sign with Vagrant. How did that all happen? How did you come to their, like, for them to know who you guys were and want to work with you?
Well, the 7 inches that we had put out were actually on a local label called It's Alive.
Oh yeah. The guy that runs what's the guy's name that runs it? Because he follows the Instagram. He actually wanted me to ask you about those 7 inches.
Oh, nice. His name is Fred Hammer.
Yeah, shout out to Fred. He hits me up all the time, man. Shout out.